The room was quiet, except for the faint hum of machines and the soft tapping of fingers on holographic keyboards. Unha sat at her station, staring intently at the glowing symbols floating in front of her. Her eyes darted back and forth as if searching for a hidden meaning within the chaotic patterns. She sighed deeply, leaning back in her chair. No matter how hard she tried, the code refused to make sense. Unha was not just any linguist. She was one of the best in her field, known across galaxies for her ability to decode even the most complex alien languages. But this was different. The artifact they had found was old, far older than anything anyone had ever encountered before. Its surface was covered in strange markings that pulsed with a faint blue light, as though alive, and the signal it emitted, well, no one could figure out what it meant. For days, Unha had been working tirelessly, trying every method she knew. She had run countless simulations, tested dozens of algorithms, and consulted every database available. Yet, nothing worked. The code remained stubbornly silent, refusing to yield its secrets. Frustration bubbled inside her, threatening to spill over. She clenched her fists tightly, forcing herself to stay calm. "Still nothing?" a voice asked from behind her. Unha turned to see Haejun standing there. He was a human engineer who had joined their team only recently. Unlike many others, he didn't come from a prestigious background or have flashy credentials. In fact, he seemed almost ordinary, quiet, unassuming, and rarely spoke unless necessary. But there was something about him, a quiet confidence that made people take notice. "No," Unha replied curtly. "Nothing. I've tried everything I can think of." Haejun nodded slowly, his expression thoughtful. He stepped closer to her workstation, glancing at the glowing symbols. "What exactly is the problem?" he asked. "The problem," Unha said, her tone sharp with irritation, "is that this code doesn't follow any known language structure. It's completely alien. Not even the most advanced translation software can crack it." "I see," Haejun said, scratching his chin. "Have you considered that maybe it's not meant to be translated?" Unha frowned. "What do you mean?" "Well, sometimes things aren't designed to be understood right away. Maybe we're looking at this the wrong way. Instead of trying to decode it, perhaps we should focus on understanding its purpose." Unha stared at him, unsure whether to feel insulted or intrigued. His suggestion was so simple, so basic, that it almost sounded ridiculous, but at the same time, it planted a tiny seed of doubt in her mind. Could she have missed something obvious? Before she could respond, another member of the team walked in. "Any progress?" he asked, hopefully. Unha shook her head. "This code is impossible to crack." The man groaned in disappointment. "We've been stuck on this for weeks now. If we don't figure it out soon, the higher-ups are going to shut down the project." Everyone fell silent at that. The pressure was mounting, and they all felt it. Failure was not an option. Not when so much was at stake. The artifact had the potential to unlock answers to questions humanity had been asking for centuries. Where did we come from? Are we alone in the universe? What lies beyond the stars? Haejun broke the silence. "Did you try plugging it in?" All eyes turned to him. Unha blinked, taken aback by the absurdity of his question. "Plugging it in?" she repeated, her voice tinged with disbelief. "This isn't some kind of Earth gadget, Haejun. It's an ancient alien artifact. We don't even know what powers it runs on. The Kanzend. Reasoned. We don't even know what powers it runs on." "That's true," Haejun admitted. "But sometimes the simplest solutions are the ones we overlook. Have you actually tried connecting it to something? Maybe it needs energy or interaction to activate." Unha opened her mouth to argue but stopped herself. She looked at the artifact, then back at Haejun. There was no harm in testing his theory. Was there? After all, they had nothing to lose at this point. "Fine," she said finally. "Let's give it a shot." The team gathered around as Haejun carefully connected the artifact to a power source using wires and adapters he had scavenged from his toolbox. Everyone held their breath, waiting to see what would happen. For a moment, nothing changed. Then, suddenly, the artifact began to glow brighter. A low hum filled the room, growing louder and more intense, and then it stopped. The team exchanged nervous glances. Had they damaged it? Was it malfunctioning? Before anyone could react, the artifact projected a series of images into the air. They were blurry at first, but gradually became clearer. Maps, symbols, and strange diagrams floated above them, spinning slowly, as if inviting inspection. Yunha gasped, her frustration melting away into awe. "It worked," she whispered. Haejun smiled faintly, clearly pleased with himself. "Told you," he said simply. No one said anything for a long moment. They were too busy marveling at the sight before them. Whatever this artifact was, it was far more advanced than anything they had imagined. And thanks to Haejun's unconventional approach, they had managed to unlock its first secret. As the initial excitement began to settle, Unha glanced at Haejun. She couldn't help but feel a grudging respect for him. His methods might have been unorthodox, but they had proven effective. Perhaps there was more to this quiet human engineer than she had initially thought. Little did she know, this was only the beginning of their journey. The room buzzed with a mix of excitement and confusion. The artifact's glowing projections floated above them, casting eerie shadows on the walls. Yunha stared at the images, her mind racing to make sense of what she was seeing. Maps, symbols, and diagrams spun slowly in the air, but none of it matched any known language or system she had encountered before. Her frustration returned almost as quickly as it had faded. "This doesn't help us," she muttered under her breath. "It's just more nonsense." Haejun, however, didn't seem discouraged. He leaned forward, his eyes scanning the projections carefully. "Maybe it's not nonsense," he said. "Maybe we're just looking at it wrong." Yunha shot him a sharp glance. "What do you mean by that?" "Well," Haejun began, pointing to one of the symbols. "These patterns, they look like they could be instructions. Maybe this isn't just information. Maybe it's telling us how to do something." Yunha frowned. "You think this is some kind of manual?" "Could be," Haejun replied. The team gathered around, murmuring among themselves. Some agreed with Haejun's theory, while others thought it was too far-fetched. Unha hesitated. She wanted to dismiss his idea outright, but part of her couldn't ignore the possibility that he might be right. After all, his last suggestion had worked. "We need to test it," she said finally. "If these are coordinates, we should see if they match any known locations." The team got to work immediately. They fed the data into their navigation systems, cross-referencing it with star charts and planetary databases. Hours passed, and the tension in the room grew thicker. Finally, one of the analysts spoke up. "These coordinates, they don't match anything in our records," he said. "But they point to a region of space we've never explored." Yunha's heart sank. Exploring uncharted space was risky, especially given the resources they had. But before she could voice her concerns, Haejun stepped forward. "That's where we need to go," he said firmly. "If we want answers, we have to follow the trail." The team exchanged uneasy glances. No one liked the idea of venturing into the unknown, but they also knew they couldn't ignore the artifact's clues. After a brief discussion, they decided to prepare for the journey. It wouldn't be easy, but they had no other choice. As the days passed, tensions between Yunha and Haejun began to rise. Their approaches to problem-solving were so different that it often led to clashes. Yunha preferred careful analysis and methodical planning, while Haejun relied on instinct and improvisation. At times, their arguments grew heated, causing friction within the team. "You can't just rush into things without thinking," Yunha snapped during one such argument. "We need to be cautious, 8. And you can't keep overthinking everything, Heijun shot back. Sometimes you have to take risks if you want results. Their disagreements didn't go unnoticed. Other members of the team started taking sides, further dividing them. Morale dropped, and progress slowed. It seemed like the mission was falling apart before it had even begun. But then, something unexpected happened. During one of their tests, Hajun discovered a hidden pattern in the artifact's code. It was subtle, almost invisible, but once he pointed it out, it became clear to everyone. The pattern matched a sequence used in Earth-based logic systems, a connection no one had considered before. Yunha was stunned. "How did you find that?" she asked, her voice tinged with disbelief. "I noticed it by accident," Heijun admitted. "I was comparing the code to some old Earth tech, just to see if there was any overlap. Turns out, there was. The discovery changed everything." For the first time, the team realized that the artifact wasn't just alien. It was a fusion of technologies from multiple civilizations. This revelation gave them new hope and renewed determination. Even Yunha couldn't deny the significance of Heijun's contribution. As they prepared for the expedition, Unha found herself reflecting on their partnership. She still didn't fully understand Heijun's methods, but she couldn't deny their effectiveness. His unconventional approach had already proven invaluable, and she suspected it would continue to be throughout their journey. The day of departure arrived sooner than anyone expected. The ship was loaded with supplies, equipment, and the artifact itself, now securely stored in a specially designed containment unit. As the team boarded, Yunha approached Heijun. "For what it's worth," she said quietly, "I'm glad you're here." Heijun smiled faintly. "Me too." With that, the ship launched into the vast expanse of space, heading toward the mysterious coordinates. What awaited them was anyone's guess. But one thing was certain. Their journey was only beginning. The ship drifted silently through the endless void of space, its engines humming softly as it followed the coordinates provided by the artifact. Inside, the team worked tirelessly to prepare for whatever lay ahead. Yunha spent most of her time analyzing the data they had gathered so far, while Heijun tinkered with equipment, making sure everything was in working order. Despite their earlier clashes, they had developed a fragile but functional rhythm, each respecting the other's strengths. After several days of travel, the ship finally reached its destination. The coordinates led them to a desolate planet, barren and lifeless at first glance. Its surface was covered in jagged rocks and deep craters, with no signs of vegetation or water. The sky above was a dull gray, heavy with thick clouds that blocked out any sunlight. It was an unwelcoming place, but the team knew they couldn't turn back now. As they landed, the airlock hissed open, and the team stepped onto the alien terrain. The ground beneath their boots was uneven and sharp, crunching loudly with every step. Heijun adjusted the settings on his scanner, trying to detect any anomalies. "Something's here," he said after a moment. "There's energy readings coming from beneath the surface." Yunha frowned. "Energy readings? What kind?" "Hard to say," Heijun replied. "But whatever it is, it's strong." The team moved cautiously, following the scanner's signals deeper into the rocky landscape. As they walked, they noticed strange structures jutting out from the ground, twisted metal beams, fragments of crumbling walls, and shards of glass-like material scattered everywhere. It was clear that this place had once been inhabited, though by whom or what they could only guess. "This must be the ruins of some ancient civilization," Yunha said, her voice filled with awe. She knelt down to examine a piece of debris, running her fingers over the intricate carvings etched into its surface. "Look at these markings. They're similar to the ones on the artifact." Heijun nodded. "Whatever built this place, they were advanced. Maybe even more advanced than us." Their exploration continued. But it wasn't long before they encountered their first challenge. A narrow path led them to a massive stone door. its surface covered in glowing symbols that pulsed faintly. The door seemed impenetrable, blocking their way forward. "We need to figure out how to open it," Yunha said, studying the symbols closely. Heijun stepped back, observing the door from a distance. "Or maybe it's not a code at all. Maybe it's a trap." "What do you mean?" Unha asked, turning to him. "Think about it," Heijun explained. "If this place was abandoned, why would anyone leave valuable information lying around unprotected? These doors might be designed to keep intruders out." Yunha hesitated, considering his words. He had a point. This entire planet felt like a test, waiting to see if they were worthy of uncovering its secrets. But they couldn't afford to give up now. "I'll try decoding the symbols," she said firmly. "You keep an eye out for anything suspicious." Heijun nodded and took a step back, scanning the area carefully. Meanwhile, Unha focused on the task at hand, her fingers flying across her holographic keyboard as she worked to decipher the symbols. Minutes passed, and just as she thought she was making progress, the ground beneath them began to tremble. "Unha, move!" Heijun shouted, grabbing her arm and pulling her away from the door. A split second later, spikes shot up from the ground where she had been standing, narrowly missing her. The team froze in shock, staring at the deadly trap that had nearly claimed one of their own. "That was close," Unha whispered, her heart pounding. "Too close," Heijun agreed. "We need to be careful. This place doesn't want us here." Despite the danger, they pressed on. Heijun's quick thinking saved them multiple times as they navigated the treacherous ruins. Each step revealed new challenges, collapsing floors, hidden pitfalls, and automated defenses designed to deter intruders. But with every obstacle they overcame, they grew closer to their goal. One evening, as the team set up camp inside a partially intact structure, Yunha found herself sitting beside Hajun. The two had grown closer during their journey, their mutual respect deepening despite their differences. "You've saved us more times than I can count," Unha admitted, breaking the silence. "I never would have made it this far without you," Heijun shrugged modestly. "I'm just doing my job. Besides, you've done your part too. Without your knowledge of languages, we wouldn't have gotten past half of those traps." Unha smiled faintly. "Maybe we make a good team after all." "Maybe we do," Heijun agreed. As they rested, Yunha reflected on how much she had learned from Heijun. His resourcefulness and calm under pressure had proven invaluable, and she realized that sometimes the simplest solutions were the most effective. For the first time, she felt confident that they could succeed in their mission. The next morning, they resumed their search. After hours of exploring, they stumbled upon a massive chamber hidden beneath the ruins. The room was filled with towering machines, their surfaces covered in glowing panels and blinking lights. At the center of the chamber stood a pedestal, atop which rested a device that looked eerily similar to the artifact they had brought with them. "This must be it," Yunha said, her voice trembling with excitement. "This is what we've been looking for." Heijun approached the pedestal cautiously, examining the device. "It looks like some kind of interface. Maybe we can use it to access the information we need." But as they prepared to activate the device, a low rumble echoed through the chamber. The walls began to shift, and a pair of glowing red eyes emerged from the shadows. Whatever it wasn't friendly. "We've got company," Heijun said grimly, stepping in front of Unha protectively. The creature stepped into the light, revealing itself to be a massive mechanical guardian. Its body was sleek and metallic, with razor-sharp claws and a menacing aura. It let out a deafening roar, its eyes locking onto the intruders. "Well," Heijun muttered, "this day just got a lot more interesting." With no time to waste, the team readied themselves for the fight of their lives. The mechanical guardian loomed over them, its glowing red eyes scanning the room. Its movements were slow but deliberate, each step echoing like thunder against the chamber walls. The team stood frozen, unsure of what to do next. Yunha clutched her scanner tightly, her mind racing for a solution. Heijun, however, didn't hesitate. He stepped forward, placing himself between the creature and the rest of the group. "Stay behind me," he said calmly, his voice steady despite the danger. "I'll distract it while you figure out how to stop it." Yunha wanted to argue, but there was no time. The Guardian let out another deafening roar and lunged toward them, its claws slicing through the air with terrifying speed. Heijun dove to the side just in time, narrowly avoiding being crushed. The impact shook the ground, sending debris flying everywhere. "We can't fight this thing head-on," Yunha shouted, her voice filled with panic. "It's too strong. Rome, then we need to outsmart it," Heijun replied, rolling to his feet and grabbing a piece of broken machinery from the floor. He hurled it at the Guardian, hoping to draw its attention away from the others. The distraction worked for a moment. The creature turned its gaze toward him, giving Yunha and the team a chance to regroup. Yunha quickly scanned the chamber, searching for anything that could help them. Her eyes landed on the pedestal, in the center of the room. The device resting on it looked similar to the artifact they had brought with them, but there was something different about it, a series of symbols etched into its surface that pulsed faintly. She realized it might be the key to disabling the Guardian. "We need to activate that device," she called out to Heijun. "It might shut this thing down." Heijun nodded, dodging another attack from the Guardian. "Go for it. I'll keep it busy." Yunha sprinted toward the pedestal, her heart pounding as the sound of metal scraping against stone echoed behind her. She reached the device and began examining the symbols, her fingers trembling as she worked. They were complex, but she recognized some patterns from the artifact. If she could replicate them correctly, she might be able to trigger the device. Meanwhile, Heijun continued to lead the Guardian on a chase around the chamber. He used whatever he could find, rocks, pieces of fallen machinery, even loose cables to distract it. Each move bought Yunha precious seconds, but the strain was starting to show. Sweat poured down his face, and his breath came in ragged gasps. He knew he couldn't keep this up forever. "Hurry, Yunha," he yelled, barely avoiding another swipe from the Guardian's claws. "I'm almost there," she shouted back, her focus unwavering. She entered the final sequence of symbols, her hands moving faster than ever before. The device began to hum, its glow intensifying with each passing second. Just as the Guardian prepared to strike again, the device emitted a bright flash of light, temporarily blinding everyone in the room. When the light faded, the Guardian froze mid-motion, its glowing eyes dimming until they went completely dark. A low whirring sound filled the chamber as the massive machine collapsed to the ground. Lifeless. For a moment, no one moved. The team stared at the fallen Guardian in stunned silence, unable to believe they had survived. Then, slowly, cheers erupted as the realization sank in. They had done it. They had defeated the mechanical beast. Heijun limped over to Unha, his body aching from the fight. "Nice work," he said with a grin. "You saved us." Yunha smiled weakly, still catching her breath. "And you kept it distracted long enough for me to finish. We make a good team." As the adrenaline wore off, the team took a moment to recover. They tended to their injuries and assessed the damage caused by the battle. The chamber itself had held up surprisingly well, though parts of the ceiling were cracked and unstable. Despite the chaos, they had succeeded in reaching their goal. Now that the Guardian was neutralized, they turned their attention back to the device on the pedestal. Unha approached it cautiously, her curiosity outweighing her fear. She ran her fingers over its surface, marveling at the intricate designs etched into the metal. It was clear that this device was far more advanced than anything they had encountered before. "What does it do?" one of the team members asked. "I'm not sure yet," Yunha admitted. "But if it was powerful enough to disable the Guardian, it must have some kind of control function. Maybe it can unlock the information we're looking for." End quote. End quote. Heijun joined her at the pedestal, studying the device closely. "Do you think it's safe to activate?" "Activate," It's hard to say, Yunha replied. But we didn't come all this way to turn back now. With that, she pressed a button on the device. At first, nothing happened. Then, a holographic projection emerged from the pedestal, filling the chamber with swirling images and text. The language was unfamiliar, but Yunha immediately recognized its structure. It was similar to the code they had been trying to decipher. "This is it," she whispered, her voice filled with awe. "This is what we've been searching for." The team gathered around, watching as the projections revealed fragments of an ancient civilization's history. Maps, diagrams, and records of technological advancements floated before them, offering glimpses into a world long gone. It was overwhelming, but also exhilarating. Every image confirmed that they were standing in the ruins of a once great society, one that had mastered technologies far beyond their own. Haejun's eyes widened as he studied the projections. "Look at this," he said, pointing to a diagram of a massive starship. They were planning to leave their planet. Maybe they abandoned this place because they found somewhere better. Yunha nodded. Or maybe something forced them to leave. There's so much we don't know yet. As they continued to explore the data, Yunha noticed something unusual, a series of coordinates embedded within the projections. Unlike the ones that had led them to this planet, these pointed to locations scattered across the galaxy. "What are those?" Haejun asked, noticing her interest. "I think they're destinations," Yunha replied. "Places where this civilization might have gone or left traces of their existence." The implications were staggering. If they followed these coordinates, they could uncover even more secrets about the alien race that had created the artifact. But such a journey would be dangerous, requiring resources and time they weren't sure they had. "We'll need to report this to command," one of the team members suggested. "They'll want to know what we've found." Yunha hesitated. Reporting their findings meant risking interference from higher-ups, who might decide to take over the mission. She glanced at Haejun, silently asking for his opinion. "We should wait," Haejun said finally. "Let's gather as much information as we can before we contact them. Once word gets out, we might lose control of this discovery." Yunha agreed. For now, the secret was theirs to protect. As the team packed up their equipment and prepared to leave the chamber, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. This was only the beginning of their journey, and she knew there was still so much more to learn. As they made their way back to the ship, Yunha couldn't help but feel grateful for Haejun's presence. His quick thinking and resourcefulness had saved them countless times, and his unwavering determination inspired her to push harder, to go further than she ever thought possible. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she knew they would face them together. The journey back to the ship was quiet, each member of the team lost in their own thoughts. The weight of what they had discovered hung heavy in the air. Yunha and Haejun walked side by side, their steps slow but steady. The device from the pedestal was now securely packed in a protective case, its secrets waiting to be fully unraveled. But neither of them could shake the feeling that their mission was far from over. As they boarded the ship and prepared for departure, Yunha couldn't help but glance at the coordinates displayed on her console. Those scattered locations across the galaxy, what did they mean? Were they clues to finding the remnants of the ancient civilization? Or were they traps, designed to lure intruders into danger like the Guardian had been? She didn't know, but she was determined to find out. Once they were safely in orbit, the team gathered in the main cabin to discuss their next move. The mood was tense but focused. Everyone knew the stakes. This discovery could change everything they understood about the universe, or it could lead to disaster if mishandled. "We have two options," Yunha began, standing at the center of the room. "We can report our findings to command and let them decide what to do next. Or we can keep going, follow these coordinates, and see where they lead." "And risk losing control of the mission?" one of the team members asked skeptically. "If command finds out we withheld information, we'll be in serious trouble." "I know," Yunha admitted. "But think about it. If we hand this over now, They'll send someone else to finish the job. Someone who doesn't understand what we've been through or how close we are to unlocking the truth. Haejun nodded in agreement. She's right. We're the ones who got this far. We should be the ones to finish it. The team exchanged uneasy glances. They all knew the risks, but they also knew the potential rewards. After a long silence, one of them spoke up. All right, let's do it. But we need to be careful. One wrong move, and we're done for. With the decision made, they plotted a course to the nearest set of coordinates. The ship's engines roared to life as they set off once again into the vast unknown. Days passed in quiet anticipation, the crew working tirelessly to prepare for whatever awaited them. Unha spent hours analyzing the data from the artifact and the device, searching for any patterns or hints that might give them an edge. Haejun, meanwhile, tinkered with the ship's systems, ensuring they were ready for anything. When they finally arrived at the first location, they found themselves orbiting a small, unremarkable moon. Its surface was covered in craters and dust, with no signs of life or activity. At first glance, it seemed like a dead end, but Unha refused to give up so easily. There has to be something here, she insisted. These coordinates wouldn't have been left behind without a reason. Haejun suited up alongside her, his expression calm but alert. Let's take a look. They landed on the moon's surface, stepping out into the eerie silence. The air was thin, almost non-existent, and the ground beneath their boots felt brittle and cold. As they explored, Haejun's scanner picked up faint energy readings emanating from beneath the surface. This way, he said, leading the group toward a large crater. Inside, they discovered a hidden entrance, a narrow tunnel carved into the rock, its walls lined with glowing panels. It was clear that this place had been deliberately concealed, meant to protect whatever lay within. Unha hesitated at the mouth of the tunnel, her instincts telling her to proceed cautiously. We don't know what's down there, she warned. It could be another trap. It's a risk we have to take, Haejun replied firmly. If we want answers, we can't turn back now. Taking a deep breath, Unha followed him inside. The tunnel twisted and turned, leading them deeper underground until they reached a massive chamber. At its center stood another device, similar to the one they had activated earlier but larger, more intricate. Above it floated a holographic interface, displaying streams of alien text and symbols. This must be some kind of archive, Unha whispered, her voice filled with awe. It's storing knowledge, records, history, maybe even technology. Haejun approached the device carefully, studying its design. Unha stepped forward, her confidence growing. She connected the artifact they had brought with them to the device, hoping it would act as a key. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the entire chamber lit up as the hologram expanded, filling the space with images and sounds. Ancient voices echoed around them, speaking in languages they couldn't understand, but somehow, they felt the meaning behind the words. Stories of exploration, survival, and innovation unfolded before their eyes, painting a picture of a civilization that had once thrived among the stars. They were incredible, Unha murmured, tears welling up in her eyes. They achieved so much. Haejun nodded silently, overwhelmed by the sheer scale of what they were witnessing. It was more than just knowledge. It was proof that humanity wasn't alone, that others had walked the same path and left their mark on the universe. But as they continued to explore the archive, a sudden warning flashed across the holographic display. The device began to emit a low hum, growing louder and more urgent. Unha realized too late what was happening. The system had detected unauthorized access and was preparing to self-destruct. "We need to get out of here," she shouted, grabbing the artifact and disconnecting it from the device. The team sprinted back toward the tunnel, the ground shaking violently beneath their feet. Haejun stayed behind to ensure everyone made it out safely, his calm demeanor masking the panic rising within him. Just as the last of them reached the surface, the chamber collapsed in a blinding explosion of light and energy. Back on the ship, they caught their breath, their hearts still racing from the narrow escape. Despite the chaos, they had managed to retrieve valuable data from the archive, enough to piece together fragments of the alien civilization's story. As they plotted a course to the next set of coordinates, Unha turned to He-jun with a grateful smile. He-jun shrugged modestly. We did it together. Their journey was far from over, but they knew they had already accomplished something extraordinary. Together, they had proven that even in the face of overwhelming odds, humanity's ingenuity and determination could shine through. And as the ship soared through the stars, heading toward new mysteries and discoveries, they felt a renewed sense of hope, not just for themselves, but for all those who dared to dream of what lay beyond the horizon.